side. So.
Oh, that's not good.
All right. So, Joel, take it away on news. Okay. So, how many of you have a Mac of any kind with a webcam, a MacBook of some sort? Do you have a MacBook? No. Okay. Well, basically, attackers have created a new kind of malware that basically piggybacks on existing webcam sessions. So if you're Skyping your parents or your girlfriend and you have this malware on your computer, they can basically hook in your webcam that's already on and the green light's already showing, and they can record what's going on your webcam, which is really fucking creepy. So there was a ex-NSA staffer who created this program called Oversight, and it basically will make sure that it monitors your microphone and your webcam, and it will tell you if something is using it. So if you are suspicious that you might have malware, or just in general, I'd recommend installing this on your Mac, just to be safe.
And just as a caveat, Little Snitch has the same thing too.
Yeah. If you don't know what Little Snitch is, Little Snitch basically, any connection that goes in or out of your computer, it will notify you, just like really on the middle of your screen, and it'll be like, this program is outgoing to this port, to this host. Do you want to allow it for a period of time, forever, disallow it, stuff like that. So it's also really helpful in case you are suspicious of things that are on your computer. There was this big release of a shit ton of emails, 17 gigs of emails from April of 2000, of the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources in Turkey. So Turkey was like, fuck that, we're gonna block GitHub, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive. So like all that stuff was down in Turkey for a while because of this data release. But I think that they've started unblocking them now. I'm not totally sure. Yeah, they did this in 2014 too. They banned Twitter when there was riots and stuff going on. So who knows what Diffie-Hellman is? Right. So Diffie-Hellman is it's used in a lot of different types of encryption, including SSL and TLS. Basically, it's a key exchange, and if you implement the protocol, the two parties, when they make their handshake, they decide on a randomly generated shared key, so that it's faster because it's symmetric encryption versus asymmetric, and it allows them to communicate without being like, you can't man in the middle it because it's generated at the time of communication. However, the NSA has the ability to put a trapdoor in there, and any other malicious party, because there is a prime number. It uses really big prime numbers to generate its shared keys. And so there is a prime number that is easily distinguishable, like 10,000 times easier to distinguish than any other prime, and it would allow them to generate the shared key that you're using in your communication to decrypt any traffic that's going through. So basically, anything that you think is secure with like SSL or TLS, they could monitor it and see your plain text passwords and credit card numbers and stuff. So that's really dangerous. This is a really good article. It's pretty long, but definitely worth the read. And then Microsoft has patched 5.0 days in their software. A couple different ones they had in Internet Explorer, MS Office, graphics components, stuff like that. There was an RCE, remote code execution, that appeared in Microsoft Office, which is pretty crazy because it's been out for a while, and like a lot of people use Word and typically use like macros to get a remote code execution, but it goes deeper than that. So yeah, definitely update your products, and if you're using cracked versions, well, good luck. Yeah, so that was it. Oh, there was also an Adobe patch, but yeah, who uses Adobe anyways? Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Thank you, Joel. So like I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, Joel's like a member, just like most of you are here in RC3, and he's presenting news, and so can you guys too. So if you want to practice your presenting skills, you guys can send RC3 eBoards some news and be like, hey, I want to present on a news article this week, and we'll let you guys come up here and talk and practice presenting. So that's how I started out presenting. I was shaking like a leaf, and now look at me. So definitely really helps. What?
Still shaking.
Yeah, from all that. So, all right. So we have Jamie back. He's from Grimm. So Grimm's doing co-op opportunities. So definitely talk to Jamie about doing a co-op with him. So he'll be here this weekend to do interviews, and then he'll be here the following week after Thanksgiving to do interviews. So you can contact him on Slack at Wombo or jamie@grimmco.com.
Yep. I'm doing already scheduled interviews this weekend. If you're interested in having one, just send me a resume, and I have only turned. I don't think I've really turned anybody down. So.
Really awesome place to work. So RC3 CTF. It's the weekend of November 18th. Start putting your team together now. Categories. So you ask. You're up.
Okay. So the categories are going to be web, forensic, reverse, and crypto, trivia, and some miscellaneous. So yeah, definitely come out. It's going to be like a Jeopardy board style. So we're going to do all those categories in increasing difficulty. So if you're a beginner, absolutely okay. There are going to be some ones that you'll definitely be able to do. So still come out. Start thinking about teams. It's coming up pretty soon. We also have our sponsors for the CTF can donate challenges. So we won't tell you which one, but if you complete one of those challenges, you can opt to have your resume or information sent along to them. So it can also be a really great networking opportunity.
All right, cool. Thank you. So, and also as well as Saturday, November 19th, we'll actually be here in this lab doing the CTF. So RC3 eBoard, who created these challenges, will be here. So if you guys want to get help, you guys can come in here and do them with us and ask questions. As we all know, RC4 is next weekend, so woot woot! So definitely come in. That'll be from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. So the first part of that day, we'll be doing member presentations, and then the second half of the day, we're going to have alumni training sessions. So definitely come. Lunch will be provided. So e-board meeting, we had one yesterday. We discussed about RC3 swag. We're getting closer to nailing down those shirts and sweatshirts for you guys. So please. Just stick with us while we do that, trying to get you guys the best price for the best swag. CTF status, we're coming along pretty well. And so, yeah, so we're coming along with a lot of our challenges, so awesome. All right, so next hop is a great club here in Golisano. They're focused on networking and system administration. So if you guys should really think about going to this. If you guys really like to do networking and sysadmin, they're a great club. They really help you out. They're like RC3 for networking and sysadmin. The one thing that you guys should really understand about security is you really have to understand how the system works. The system works to secure it or attack it. If you really don't understand that, you really can't defend it or attack it. So this is a great place to go and learn how these things work and interact. And they're going to be having a talk by some guy who's doing cloud computing and all this really cool stuff. So please RSVP there. So, and then with us we have an alumni, Dan Syed. Yeah, look at that caveman hair. So, Dan Syed was a previous RC3 eBoard member. He was here my freshman year. So, he's going to give a professional flash talk about what he does on a day-to-day. After he's done eating cookies.
Dan's here. Hi. I didn't recognize you for a second. Yeah, really. So hi, I'm Daniel Syed. I graduated RIT in 2014, master's in computer security and information assurance, yeah, but really just security. I work at Uber. I started in August. I work there doing security response. And what that entails is basically like all of the blue teaming. My job is to basically log everything, consolidate all of that, parse through it all, alerts, and the really cool part is not just like get alerts and like, oh yeah, click a button to like fix. No, automate that part, because like when we have like 10,000 alerts coming in a day or something, most of them we're just going to ignore because like they're a waste of our time. And what if something like bad slips through? So automating, like, if we have something that's like high severity, then we take a look at it. All the low-hanging fruit type things, we're just like, yeah, whatever, block the attacker, redirect him, misdirect him. Deception is a fun thing. Like, stand up a VM that acts like a honeypot and is like, hey, I have SSH. And the attacker will be there for a while, and then we'll be like, okay, they're coming from Hungary, they're using these types of TTPs. TTP short for Tools, Tactics, Procedures. It's like an APT term. I forget what APT means anymore. Advanced Persistent Threat, yes, the Chinese or something. Current Mandiant. But basically identify like what they're doing and then like log them out. And that's my job in like sort of a nutshell. Recently, I've been playing a lot with OS Query. It's made by Facebook, and it is some sweet, sweet shit. Oh my god. Yes. Yeah. Our show of hands, who is not familiar with OS Query? No, really, like raise them. It's fine. Cool. All right, so it's on GitHub, like Facebook's GitHub, like they publish it open source, and it acts as an agent running on the device, and you can configure it accordingly, like with whatever osquery.com, and it collects like aspects of the file system of the operating system, the kernel, and so on, and you can query it just like you can with like SQL, and that is the really neat part, because that way, any queries you have, like say I want to catch an unsigned binary running on /temp within the last hour, you can do that. And that is the coolest thing to me, because it's just like, yeah, like anything running on a temp directory is kind of awkward. If it's unsigned, it's definitely worth paying attention to. How about if I catch, this is on OS X, and Linux in general, they're testing Windows 10 right now, and it's all sorts of hilarious because Windows. Anyway, huh? Uh-huh. Yeah, right. We use like other tools for our Windows stuff. What was that? Yes. So catching any binaries that have changed like their SUID bit recently, or catching file hashes for common binaries that we've seen, or that have changed within the last hour. Like say somebody booby traps the ping command. We can catch that, and that's really cool stuff. So this helps when you're trying to defend against a fleet of 10,000 plus workstations or 5,000 plus servers. Like Uber's big. You know why? Because everyone. Oh yeah, it's not in Rochester. Shit. Eventually, Uber. The idea is basically your phone is your portal to getting a ride anywhere as soon as possible. Like our mission statement is like transportation, like running water, and or as easy as running water. So like. We do a lot of things to scale to demand, both on the rider side and on the driver partner side. So, I don't know. It's a lot of good challenges. It's a lot of good problems. It's a company. Is that good enough?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anyone got any questions?
Oh yeah, please ask.
How did you come to work for?
Oh man. Previously, I've been working at Cisco Meraki doing technical troubleshooting, like network troubleshooting, and that's where I got like my networking chops like solid. Like RIT taught me a lot of like how's layer 2, how's layer 3 protocols, blah blah blah, routing. I don't need to know routing anymore, honestly. But I basically was there, and I was like hunting out for like jobs elsewhere. Like I wanted to get back into security because previously I'd been working at Mandiant, doing security consulting, and that was good for a time. A friend of mine actually referred me at Uber, and like if you guys are considering a co-op or something, we will most likely be searching in the spring for security co-ops. and of course, you guys can like send me your resumes. I can like give critiques or like refer or whatever. But yeah, a friend of mine referred me, a good friend from when we worked in Mandiant, and yeah, they hired me for some reason.
Because you're smart.
Bullshit. Every day I'm like really stupid. What's up?
Do you have a team there at Uber, like a security team, or in-house?
Yes, I am one of 7 people doing security response. The overall organization, or sub-org we're called, is called EngSec, and they have a lot of like other like teams within their like R&D, privacy. We care about privacy. Platform security, platform as in like our infrastructure, and fraud, threat ops being like dangers to Uber as a company, like say the Turkey coup, or say protests in like X country. Like we're everywhere in the sense of like we operate in more than 400 cities, so it brings a lot of interesting challenges. Like, what if the government suddenly like raids an office and we need to lock down all those PCs, all of the tech that we've deployed there, make sure any secrets on it are not leaked. That's another of my job duties. Yeah.
What was like the hardest thing you experienced with Martin?
A red team exercise. So it was a double-blind red team exercise in the sense of like they didn't know where they were scoped at in terms of like infrastructure, like what they were to do, like subnet A, subnet B. That's what I mean. And blind in the sense that we didn't know we were having a red team exercise going on. All we saw was like an alert of like this one JetBrains server like suddenly like asking like a bunch of cached NTLM hashes to one of our DCs, and we're like, that is fucking awkward. And so we got on the box. We started doing forensics. We used like, what did we use? We used volatility for memory forensics. We used sleuthkit for like disk. Basically got those, store them elsewhere in like cloud, and then we lost connectivity to the box. Like, apparently they were trying to do some weird SSH backdoor, and they fucked it up, and like it killed our connection. At that point, we were just like, fuck this, we're killing the box. And then the red team was basically done with their thing. But they'd been in the network for like a full week beforehand, and we were like, what the fuck? That was the most stressful time, because we spent like the next like 4 days looking over fucking everything. We were like, oh my god, we got like legit like fucked like in the ass or something. And then our CISO, John Flynn, he goes by nickname 4. Really cool guy. You should look him up. He was like, oh yeah, this was a red team exercise, and we're like, oh, well that steals all the thunder. But yeah, it was really like high stress, high reward. Like I basically was like here with like forensics before, because at the time RIT didn't really teach that many forensics classes, and I got up to there after learning all that. Yeah.
What's the funniest mistake you made while working?
Oh, I gotta think.
So many.
I think it'll be like tomorrow, actually. So I'm pushing some like OS query code live to like our entire fleet of everything, and like I suspect the queries that I'm adding are like very low impact, and I've been profiling them. Like they have a profiling script like to be like, oh, it hits CPU X, it hits memory X. Let's do like this for like 20 rounds to get an average value or something. But I don't know if it's actually like up to like if it's actually going to drop anything. Like it's our OS X like MacBooks, it's our Linux like Debian instances, it's our whatever, and yeah, that'll be like the most high impact thing I'll be doing right now.
Just hope it doesn't take that enough or do something.
I just hope it doesn't do anything like really crazy, like people being like, why is my machine so slow all of a sudden or something, because I'm doing like queries every 5 minutes. Yeah. Anything else? Cool.
Well, thank you. All right. So we get on to the main part of today, Windows offense. So this is going to be a lot of fun today. So we're going to go through a lot of different things. So hopefully this is kind of like a general overview of Windows offense and a little bit of red teaming all in one. So as usual, our disclaimer, don't do anything stupid with the things that we teach you. I'm not going to come bail you out of jail, but I will come visit you. So as we know, just a little recap from last week, Active Directory. We know it's based on DNS, so domain controllers are typically DNS servers as well. Domain administrators is the highest privilege on a domain, so you want to escalate there if possible. And Active Directory uses things like LDAP and Kerberos to authenticate users. It's really good for remote management, which we use group policy for, so we can write a rule once and it's deployed out to our fleet. And then domain controllers administrates the domain. Computers join that domain, and clients download group policy, I've already said. And one thing to keep in mind is local machines still have local accounts, so that's a fun thing. All right, so common ways to get in exploits and vulnerabilities, which we're going to do today: PSExec, guest accounts, brute forcing, and dictionary passwords. Remote desktop and open shares can be fun too. Some popular vulnerabilities to keep in mind with Windows. Here are the top 3. Alright, so we're going to talk to you guys today about Metasploit. And the thing I want to hammer into everyone's mind is Metasploit is the tool. It's not the end-all, be-all of everything. A lot of people learn Metasploit and they go, great, I'm a hacker, that's all I need. And they never really go outside. Metasploit is a tool. Use it like such. Don't depend on it.
Don't be a tool.
Yes. So it's a tool. In your toolbox, use it as such. It has a lot of great tools. So, some Metasploit terms you want to keep in mind: exploits, which is a means by an attacker to take advantage of a flaw in a system. Payload is code that, when the system executes, is to be selected and delivered. So like things like bind shells and reverse shells, which we discussed in the past couple of weeks. Shellcode, which is a set of instructions that gets run by the box, and module is a piece of software that we can use after we've gained access to that box, such as like key logging, SMB scanners, etc. And then listeners are like components and Metasploits that wait for connections back from our box. So, exploit versus vulnerability. So, a vulnerability is a flaw in the system / software that allows an attacker to bypass security infrastructure of a host, OS, or software. So, it's a weakness in the operating system or software. Exploit, the act of leveraging a vulnerability to perform an action that you're not supposed to. So you're doing malicious things with that weakness. So such as like denial of service or remote code execution. So we have this thing called MSF console. That's how you interact with Metasploit. That's how you run commands and do all this really cool stuff. So it interacts with the framework. You can load modules. You can do this thing called IRB, and commonly known as Railgun and Metasploit, where you get access to the actual Windows API underneath. And it's really, really cool. That's a link to Metasploit Minute, where Rob Fuller goes through on how to use Railgun. It's really cool. Metasploit Minute, really good thing to check out. So, as we all know, Nmap, we've talked about it. We've hammered it into you guys. It's the first thing that you guys always do when you want to get into a box or secure your box. So, Metasploit has DB_Nmap built in. It works the same way as Nmap. So it's the exact same thing. So you can run like our example here, db nmap -- script. So we're going to run an nmap script to look for SMB shares, and SMB shares are specific to Windows, so it's going to find all our Windows hosts with SMB shares. So once it finds all those hosts, it's going to add them to a database, and so now we have this database of users, and then we can use that for exploits later. So we don't have to remember this list of IP addresses. This database will remember it, and we can go, hey, remember those hosts that we found earlier? We want to run this exploit or this module against those hosts. So we have these things called auxiliary modules. Metasploit contains hundreds of auxiliary modules. Really, really cool. I actually digged into a lot of this. So we have things like scanners, which again, you can search for things like SMB shares, web servers with HTTP. You got fuzzing modules. Fuzzing probably a topic that we're going to get to when we talk about reverse engineering and all that later on, and pwning. So basically fuzzing is when you shovel a bunch of random data to a network service and see how it handles it. Does it handle it correctly, or does it crash the service? Admin modules, they help you like escalate privileges, which is really good if you get regular user access on a box and you want to escalate. Gather modules, you can collect information about the hosts or services on the network, which is really good because the more information you have, the more you know, the more you can do. Server modules, I thought this was really cool when I learned about this week. You can set up a dummy server such as DNS or DHCP. So that's really freaking cool if you got access to the network. You can just set up a fake DNS server or a DHCP server. So you don't really have to set up those services yourself. You can just run a Metasploit module to do it. And the vSploit acts as a vulnerable service to test appliances like IDS and IPS, which is really cool. So there's lots to learn. Go explore. So, exploits. Who wants to talk about this one?
So exploits are the main way that Metasploit gains access to a system. So an exploit, as discovered before, a vulnerability is a hole in the system, and an exploit uses that hole. So an exploit basically will take over the system in a way that gets it to execute code that it wants to execute, that the system did not intend to be executed or did not intend to be executed in the way that it is being run. So there are things, buffer overflows are the go-to 90s exploit. Very simple, easy to understand, and great way to learn it. Basically the way buffer overflow works is you take data and you shovel it into something that's a lot smaller than it can take. And it will overwrite important things, and you can control set important things to make it execute code that you write. Format string attacks, printf will pop data off the stack as many times as you tell it if you give the first variable is user controlled. And you can also write data to memory, apparently, for some reason. They decided that that would be necessary. That means you can do things like overwriting flags in memory, saying like, int is admin is false, and you can go like, oh, I'm just gonna write true there. You're now an admin. Thank you, printf. Heap sprays, a bit more advanced. I'll really be covering that, but that's there. Usually it's called memory corruption, so they corrupt program memory in some way. Everything on your computer is memory. You're just doing something dirty to it to make it do sadness. Or happiness. Happiness for the attacker, sadness for the sysadmin. Well, you're now a sysadmin if you do that, so you are now a remote system administrator. Remote non-consensual system administrator. All right. So, for example, there's in MS 08067. This is an exploit that affects primarily Windows XP. What it does is it's an exploit in the way SMB handles relative pathing. So, for example, if you go to the path /ABC, it'll go to the path ABC. If you give it /ABC /XYZ, it'll go to /XYZ. If you give it ABC // it crashes. And you can use this to take advantage of the program by providing a payload afterwards, I believe. This is most primarily used on Windows XP. A lot of exploit 101s are going to say use MS 08067, but its XP has been phased out of existence by now. If you encounter it, throw this at it, but there's a good chance you're going to light up every single IDS that's on the network. Everything has this in its signature database. This is basically saying, I am hacking you. Shell code. Code that gets you a shell. It's assembly. It's specially formatted assembly that you shovel into the system at some point. Depending on the way that the exploit or vulnerability is structured. Basically, it's just formatted assembly. Assembly, if you're not familiar, converts into bytecode, which is what the machine reads. So it all goes into ones and zeros. I'm sure you've all heard this. That's all this is. Just ones and zeros that tell the machine to do something bad or good for the attacker, like shell. Or say, you can make it say, pop up a message on Windows. There's a lot of things you can do with assembly. There's a lot of payloads in Metasploit that automatically do this for you. It's a very useful utility. MSF Venom, if you've never used it, is great. And all it is just assembly. You shovel it in, you get the program to start executing it, and all of a sudden you are executing your own code in the context of the process that's running. The payload. Do you want me to cover this? Sure. Go for it.
So, a payload is what you actually want to be running on the system. And there's a few ways that you can do it. It can be, so like let's say you want to interact with the system. Okay, you want some sort of agent on the system that you can give malicious actions to so that that machine will run it. You have to connect to it to be able to send it, right? If you can't tell it what to do, it's not going to be able to do anything unless you pre-programmed it. So if you have some sort of payload that's connecting back to you, it's going to be a reverse connection type because it is connecting to you. It'll be a bind connection if you connect to it. So if you were to start up a server and listen and wait for connections on that target machine after you've run your exploit and you connect to it, that's a bind payload. If you start up the payload on the machine and it connects back to you, that's a reverse connection. So often you have this large, awesome, mega awesome, super amazing malware suite, right? And your malware suite is the best in the world, right? And it just happens that like that malware suite is like pretty huge, right? And you can't really shove that in whatever payload you're using to exploit whatever service you have, right? So there's something called a stager. And what the stager is a small downloader or small installer that you send to the machine that will then install your larger payload that you actually want to run. So while your stager may be the actual payload that's going along in the exploit, it's what pulls down the other information and the other code that you're going to end up running in the future. And that larger payload that you're calling that the stager pulls down is called the stage. And this is really what the red teamers actually care about. So Meterpreter, it's Metasploit's own feature-rich malware. It is malware, right? It's essentially runs and gives you the ability to interact with the system as a shell. You can do it manually or you can do scripted. We talked earlier about using the interactive Ruby and using Railgun to call Windows Win32 API. Meterpreter can cover most of the post-exploitation modules that the Metasploit framework has. So let's say you have something to dump all the hashes out of the system, you can run that from your Meterpreter. So we have some common commands. Shell will actually give you a shell that the shell that runs on the system. The Meterpreter shell is different than a regular shell that you'd interact with. Typically you run Meterpreter on a Windows system. So when you do shell, it's normally going to drop you into CMD. Get system, it does a few different tactics to try and get you to the system level privileges. Dash type, the dash T is for type. There's several different types. It will try the easiest and most quiet ones first, and then it'll try and go through, and then it gets more noisy and really looks like you're trying to actually escalate the system privileges. So background allows you to stop interacting with the session that you have, and then just put it in the background and then go and do your other stuff. So you get on a system, you're like, okay, run these few things, do these few tasks, got me information, okay, I'm gonna let that one sit, type background, go do more scanning, other exploitation and such. You can upload and download files from it, you can clear logs, and you can show how long the user has been idle on the system. So if you're doing something that might pop up, like a warning message or something, you don't want to do it when Sally in accounting is sitting right at her computer, right? You want to do it maybe when they've gone out to lunch or gone to the bathroom or something. So if you see the idle time and it's been sitting for like 10 minutes or so, and you know it's right around noon, they've probably gone out to lunch and you can do something. So Meterpreter allows you to bring in a few modules, right? So Metasploit is a modular framework. Has anybody not heard of a golden ticket attack? Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, some people. Okay, so Kerberos. This is this fantastic technology which basically says, here is a server that's normally running on your domain controller and says, give me a ticket. You authenticate it to it, and it says, give me a ticket, and I'll verify that you are you. Right? Then what you can say is then, okay, I have verified that I'm me. And you go to the Kerberos server, and it says, okay, now let's say you wanted to go connect to SSH over on another machine. You verify that you are you, and you've already done that. You give it to it, and it says, okay, here's a ticket for the SSH server. And you go over to the SSH server, which has been configured to accept Kerberos tickets, and you say, here's my Kerberos ticket. Okay, now I'm going to authenticate. So it's essentially a way to authenticate to every service after authenticating to a central authentication tower. What a golden ticket is it's essentially the root ticket that gives you access to all of things. It's the ticket granting ticket per se. And what you can do is you can issue a new ticket granting ticket and then have it exist for essentially forever is what you can set the time limit as, and it will essentially give you access to every system. Normally, when you create Kerberos tickets, you don't ever change them. They're normally left there because when you change them, it often has to like reset everything. So if you're able to get a golden ticket, you can leave it on this network and then basically pretty much assume that you're going to have it there for years and years. So if you use the Kiwi module, which allows you to run commands like mimikatz and use methods to get golden tickets, you can use things like creds all and LSW dump to get creds and hashes. Yeah. Cool. So when you have things connecting back, you need something for them to connect back to, right? And that's called a listener. So what we want to do is, in Metasploit, there's something that they call exploit multi-handler. That's the path to it. Basically, you say, I want it to run on this system, I want this to be the port it is, and I'm going to accept this type of payload, right? So I want, let's say, a Meterpreter reverse TCP listener setup. I set it up, and every one of my reverse TCP connections, I'm going to configure them to talk to that machine. So, post-exploitation modules. We've gotten on the system, we've got our malware running, what do? So, you can do things like gain persistence, enumerate the users, the groups and domains, escalate privileges, and dump password hashes. You want to pass the hash?
So this is something we talked about last week, so pass the hash is, so we've got like a bunch of user shares all over the network, and we don't always want to type in our password. We want Windows to make it easy for us, so it stores your hash in your system, and when you want to go authenticate to that share, it'll take your hash, and then it'll go give it to that system, and it'll go, hey, I've got the same hash, and you're good to go. So if you can dump those hashes, you can pretty much go around any box you want with that hash. So that's pretty much pass the hash in 10 seconds or less. So pass the hash, so it actually works, and it's been fixed in Windows 8, but maybe not, and you can go look at it in some of those posts, but it's a really effective attack. So pass the hash, you can use this tool. It's another tool in Kali that you can use to do it. There's also PSExec, which will also take hashes as well. We're just giving you a bunch of tools that you guys can utilize to utilize this one weakness / vulnerability in Windows. Alright, so Armitage. Armitage is really cool. It's a GUI front end to Metasploit. So you get all this really cool graphs, and you get lightning bolts when you attack a computer and you're inside of it. It's really great. You got all these lightning bolts, and it makes you feel really great. And I love when freshmen get lightning bolts, their eyes go like this. It's the best experience when you guys get lightning bolts. So, like I said, Armitage is a front end to Metasploit, so you guys can use that. As we all know, command line is definitely faster. So Armitage continues, so it allows you to attack on a large scale. You can scan for hosts. You can scan for possible exploits. So you can say, I have all these hosts. Hey, can you go out and see if there's any possible exploits that we know of that may work on these boxes? You can scan hosts for possible ways to gain access to those boxes, such as PSExec and etc. You can, once you get access to those boxes, you can pivot through. So if you have a box, say like a user, you would use that user's computer to attack other things on the network, because you don't want that network to know what your actual IP address is as an attacker. You want it to see it as an actual computer on the network. So that's one plan of attack. It has an integration with its own scripting language, which makes it really awesome and neat if you guys get to play with that. It's really great for mass management of hosts. This is the free version. There's a paid version called Cobalt Strike. It's really awesome. It's made by Ralph Fialmaj, and he has like a YouTube series that you guys can go and watch if you want to learn more about that. So, scan to pwn in 10 seconds or less. So, we're going to do a demonstration of MSO867. It's the exploit that we all show everyone. However, we're not going to have this exploit in today's demo. So, I've seen kids take MSO867 and they go, okay, I'm the elite hacker. I've learned MSO8. I've done everything I need to do to be successful. I've seen kids run this vulnerability / exploit on a Linux box when it's for Windows. I've seen it happen. That's why I don't like showing people this, because they rely on it too much, but I want to actually go through it and show you guys the different ways to interact with Metasploit so you guys can see like a demonstration of that. So because we're running out of time, we're going to come back to the slide. I'll do a demonstration at the end. So I'll actually walk you guys through on how to use Metasploit, how to set up an exploit, how to set up a payload, and then break into the box so you guys can see that. So PSExec, it's a tool in Metasploit, and there's a sysinternals tool as well. So it allows you to get a shell via SMB, which runs on port 445. You need a username and password and a domain name if the computer is connected to the domain. You can take advantage of, again, default or weak credentials, as we all know, or you can do pass the hash with it. So, and that's the module. This is what you would use in Metasploit to use that. If you're using the sysinternals tool, this is how you would run that command. Really cool. These CSEC labs already have psexec already set up on them, so you guys just have to run psexec, username, give it a password, and all that. So these are the steps to get a reverse shell. So we have bind shell, we have reverse shell. What's the difference? Can you guys tell me what's the difference between a reverse shell and a bind shell? One's backwards. We can wait here all day. Someone better say something. What?
One binds and one reverses.
Someone that's not on e-board.
A bind shell connects locally and listens, like it listens on the exploited box before connections coming in, or a reverse shell connects back to your machine.
Okay. So follow-up question on you. Why would you want to use a bind shell, or why would you want a reverse shell?
I'll answer the second one. I'm not really sure on the
Okay.
first one. But we would want to use a reverse shell in the case where there are restrictive ingress firewall rules. Normally, ingress firewall rules are a little more relaxed, so you can connect out on a crazy port and just fine.
All right. So put this in simple terms. So a bind shell is kind of like running an SSH server. You're connecting to that service to interact with it. So if you're trying to attack a network, they're only going to allow certain things in. So if you have a bind shell, you're not going to be able to get to it, okay? Because the firewall is only going to allow very specific things into very specific boxes, and that's how it should be done. So what we do is this thing called reverse, where we can go, all right, well, we can't get through, but let's do some social engineering, get the user to run our malicious executable, and get them to connect back to us. So that's why you want to use a reverse shell, is if you can't go in through the front door, get them to come to you. So we start with NSF console. We use a thing called the multi-handler, as we discussed before. We're going to set the payload that we want to accept. We're going to set the L port. You can send it to any number you want between 1 and 65,535. You're going to set the L host, which is your actually Kali IP address. You're going to do exploit-j. -j allows you to run multiple sessions, allows you to get multiple sessions back to that handler. And then you can use this really cool tool in within the Metasploit framework called MSF Venom, which allows you to generate a small executable payload called notavirus.exe. So you take this .not.exe, you copy it to the host any way that you want, whether it's an open share or whatever. You can use psexec, which we just talked about in the last couple of slides, to connect that box, and then you run that executable. So we're going to move on to PowerSploit here. So PowerSploit is a collection of tools that can be used to leverage different things in PowerShell to try and escalate privileges and get more access to the box and do really, really cool things. So PowerSploit modules, we have things like AV bypass, code execution, exfiltration, persistence, PE tools, recon, reversing, and you can get the full list there at the bottom. So first thing we want to do is set up a simple HTTP server. So if you go on Kali and you go to CD share PowerSploit and then you run the simple HTTP server, what it'll do is when you go to your Kali Linux's IP address and on port 8000 there, it'll have a list of the entire directory of all these PowerSploit scripts. So now if you're on the network, you can set this up and then you can call to them. So as in this example, so we want to get code execution. So what we're going to do is open up PowerShell. If we run this long command, we type in our IP address of our simple HTTP server. And then we tell, hey, we want to do code execution and we want to use the script invoke shellcode.ps1. It'll go out to that simple HTTP server, pull down that script, and execute it for us. Really simple, really easy. And you can use, you can tell, so once you have pulled that down, you can tell it, hey, I want to inject into this process. You can give it a process ID. And then furthermore, we can say, hey, we want to get more persistence on the box. So, hey, we want to run a reverse shell back on a listener that we have already defined and set up already. Like we discussed in the previous slide, how to set up a listener. So you guys can do that because like we said, with MoveX, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So you always want multiple methods of persistence to get back into the box. So PowerSploit, you have code execution. There's these different commands and different methods. You have DDL injection, reflection, PE injection, shellcode, and WMI commands. And then you can do priv-esc mode, which uses different methods that are known out in the wild to get priv escalation on the box. And then we got service abuse, so it's finding a vulnerable server. There's actually a scan in PowerSploit that'll look for vulnerable services for you and say, hey, here are some vulnerable services that you could use. So what you want to do is you want to stop that, and then you can run the script which will add a username, and so you tell it which vulnerable service it is. So we're using custom app as our vulnerable server. We want to set up a username called backdoor2, and we want to set our password to password123 for that user. And then you're going to bring that service back up online, and when you bring it back up online, it'll create you a user on that system. So that's one way to gain access and persistence to a user. And then persistence, there's a bunch of different persistence mechanisms within PowerSploit that you guys can go and explore. And then there's recon, because like we always say, the more information you have, the more you know, the more you can do. So there's things like net functions will allow you to find file servers, domain users, and etc. GPO, find different group policies that have been set, and you can go hunting around the domain. So you have access. Now what? We have our shell. So if you can, try and do priv escalation. Create users with elevated privileges if you can, such as creating a domain user. Dump user hashes, enable RDP, use Kiwi and Mimikatz, create firewalls to allow your malware out. Because it looks really weird if all of a sudden your firewall rules go missing, right? So like now you know something's up, but if you just slip in your own firewall rule, people are usually too busy during a competition to notice that. So sometimes it's better just to slip in your own rule. So think about that before you just wipe out the firewall. And then do like backdoor binary schedule tasks, and imagination is your friend. So, red teaming engagement. I want to go over a couple of things. And so that you guys all understand, a couple weeks ago we did a Linux offense demo, and some people restarted, I don't know if it was on purpose or by accident, but they restarted the host machines on the back that were running our VMs, and that destroyed the environment for other people to attack that box, and that's not cool. That's not fair to the people who come here and do that. So I don't care if you were the person, if you did it on purpose or by accident, but here's what I'm going to tell you now. You don't have any reason to be interacting with anyone's host machine or the host machines that are running the VMs for the offensive VMs for that day. There's no reason you should be touching them. They have separate IP addresses from the actual VMs that we're running and from the host machine system. So there's no reason to be touching that IP address whatsoever. So here's the thing. If I catch any of you, and I'm telling you this now, look at me, if I catch any of you trying to reboot, shut down, or blue screen a host box intentionally / on purpose, you will lose your RC3 points for an entire year. So, like I said, does everyone understand me? You will lose them if you're intentionally trying to reboot, shut down, or do anything to that host system, because there's no reason for you to be touching it, and that's non-negotiable. Okay? So, nothing to be scared about. We told you guys the IP addresses, so you guys know what IPs you guys are allowed to attack. So if you guys are attacking and running an exploit on our VMs, and you guys blue screen those VMs, and it was an accident, that's okay. What you do, raise your hand and say, hey, that was me, it was an accident, I was just running this exploit, blue screen, we come over and we go, okay, it was an accident, you're good, you're off clean. However, if you don't, and I figure it out, then we have to have a conversation of whether you did it on purpose or not, and that's a harder conversation if you didn't raise your hand, so just be honest with us. Do not run crazy malware you found or have written. If you don't know how it works or you're not sure how it's going to work in this environment, talk to RC3 eBoard before you run it. We don't want worms going all over RIT's network and then RC3 gets blamed for it. Also, especially if it does things that you're unsure, so don't do that. Also, don't firewall everyone off the box except for you. Give everyone an equal chance. So if you're going to set up a firewall as a nice red team person, allow certain services through. Don't just block it to just your IP address.
If you guys think this is harsh, this you will come across this in your careers. You will be given scopes for pen tests. If you attack a system that's out of scope, you can go to prison. This is very real. It's important that you understand that this is actually a thing. This is important to realize that you will be told, do not go after this. Go after this. So there are real world consequences. Once you get into the professional world, if you take down a production system that they specifically tell you not to go after, they will get very angry at you.
So yeah. Another thing to keep in mind, do not RMRF-no preserve any box or the equivalent on Windows. Don't overwrite the bootloader. Don't reboot the system. I know that there are some vulnerabilities that you have to reboot the box so that you can get access back. We've built the VMs in such a way that you don't have to reboot the box to do that, so don't do it. Do not use RDP until the last 15 minutes for today. And don't use that exploit either, because that'll blue screen the box. So, does everyone understand what not to do? If anyone's a little unfuzzy, let me know. We can explain it. Like I said, none of you have to be worried unless you're purposely trying to be that guy that's trying to restart the host box. So, we all good? Anyone got any questions from the presentation? What's up? Yeah. So everyone has the VM currently or should have them momentarily on their box. We actually have a couple boxes set up in the back that you guys are actually going to attack, but the ones that are currently on your desktop, if you want to take that home with you in practice. So that's why they're currently on your desktop. So, Brad, do we have IP addresses? Bradley, do we have IP addresses?
Yeah, I'll get back to it.
So TLDR, don't be a dick. That's pretty much what that red team thing is. We want everyone to have a fair chance. We want everyone to have an equal chance. If you have questions, come talk to RC3 eBoard, and we'll help you guys out. Just so you guys know, users and things for today's demo, administrator has the password change me. Guest accounts enabled. There's a printer share called Harambe222. So,
Make use of that if you want.
yeah. Some great resources for you guys to go explore and have fun with. So.
Invite some